Now, the next one's a little bit different, but it doesn't have any eyes in it yet. What did you learn last year about taking the square root of a negative number? Right?
It comes out with I.
The negative comes out as an I. So the answer is 9i. Very, very good. Would everybody agree with that? Now, the next problem, we're going to do exactly the same thing, except there's two of them. So what about this? Let's do this one first. What's that one going to equal? 2i. And then, what's that one equal? 3i. And they're being multiplied together. So when I multiply them together, what's that going to give me? Well, it's going to give me 6i squared, which is going to become negative 6. I don't know. Isn't this easy? It's pretty easy, right? All right, let's look at the next one because it does not look quite so easy, but it is. Don't let all the letters mess with you. Please don't let them bother you. 3 plus 2i equals x plus yi. Now just look at that for a minute and tell me if you know what x and y are. Because you can look at the problem and tell me. What does x have to be?
3.
3. And what does y have to be?
2.
How do we know x has to be 3 and y has to be 2?
You look at the I.
We look at what's hooked to the I and what isn't, right? So notice that this I has a y and this I has a 2. So doesn't it make sense that y is 2? And then the x and the 3 are the numbers without the i's. They're just plain numbers in there. Very cool. It's that easy. Don't make it harder than that. Even with the next one, don't make it harder than that. We have 3 minus yi equal to x plus 7i. What do you think x is? If you say 3, you're right. See, does this have an I? No. Does this have an I? No. So they are equal to each other. So x equals 3. Now, this does have an I. So negative y, whatever number this is right here, doesn't it have to be the same as 7?
Yeah.
So negative y equals 7, so y equals negative 7. Sometimes when we look at a problem like that, we get all like crazy. It's easy. Whatever doesn't have an I has to match up, and whatever does have an I has to match up. Everybody's so tired today. For some reason. Why is that? Something big last night? What happened?
The humidity is making it.
The humidity?
Very poor quality.
At least it rained. That's good news. Okay, now we got some review problems. These last few problems here are all review, just extra practice. X squared plus 4x plus 2. Directions say solve. Directions do not say how to solve. So you get to pick. Reed, how would you like to solve this?
Foil.
Oh, you're gonna try to foil it? Okay. You mean factor, right?
Yeah,
This is what you mean, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I'm a little bit concerned. I don't think it's gonna work, is it?
No, man.
I can't get a 4 in the middle, can I?
No. Okay.
Dang. Yeah, so don't factor, that's fine. So then he says let's use the quadratic formula.
That's what I was gonna say.
Okay, So if I use the quadratic formula, okay, so this didn't work, I'll cross it out. A equals 1, B equals 4, and C equals 2. So here we go, review your quadratic formula. X equals negative 4 plus or minus the square root of 4 squared minus 4 times A times C all over 2. Okay. Did you check in out at the office, Nobby? They give you a pass? Okay. All right, so let's clean that up a little bit. What have we got under there?
8.
I think that's right. Are you getting 8 underneath your radical? I think it's 16 minus 8. So negative 4 plus or minus the square root of 8 over 2. This is 8 right here. So 16 minus 8.
Yeah.
8 simplifies. So negative 4 plus or minus 2 radical 2.
Yeah.
Because 8 is 2 out, 2 in. What about that answer?
You can simplify it.
You actually can. Because can I take a 2 out of both of these?
Yeah.
So they can cancel with this 2?
Yes.
So if I do that, if I take a 2 out of everything, I'll be left with negative 2 plus or minus root 2.
What if you want? You can do square root of 2.
Under here, you mean? No. When we cancel, we only cancel the outside parts. Always just the outside parts.
Fair enough.
And then you can put that over 1 if you want, but you don't need to. You could just leave it that way. Now, who had a question about that? Okay. How about the next one? One more little review problem here. Who's got an idea about this one? Anybody?
You could probably do factoring, but I like the quadratic still.
Okay. Ethan says this might factor. I don't know, but I'd rather just use the quadratic formula. So are the rest of you okay with that thought?
Yes, ma'am.
I think this one does factor, but if you don't want to mess with it or don't want to take the time to try, we can do our quadratic formula. So x equals positive 9
Yeah.
plus or minus the square root of 81, 9 squared, minus 4 times A times C, all over 2A.
So what you get
What do we get under there?
So you get 56.
Okay, so 81 minus 56. Is that 25?
Yes.
Oh, and what's nice about having a 25 under there?
Outside.
So it's 9 plus or minus 5. Now this one, we kind of just left that way, but can't we actually combine that a little bit?
Yeah. So if it's plus over, so it'd be 14 over 4.
14, so 9 plus 5 is 14 over 4, which actually reduces to 7 over 2.
Yeah.
And then what's the other one gonna be? 9 minus 5 is 4 over 4, which reduces to 1. So we got 2 like regular numbers for that one, because we have the square root of 25, so the radical went away. Okay? All right. Now we've got to simplify. All right, we see if you can do this. We just practiced this today. This is a FOIL problem, would you agree? So take a minute and see if you can get it FOILed correctly. Remember, you're going to get an I squared, and I squared is the same as -1. When you get an answer, just go ahead and raise your hand. We'll talk about the answers you guys all came up with. Oh, we're getting some hands up, good deal. All right, let's write down some of these answers. Read, what do you have?
11 minus 13.
Okay. How about you, Brendan?
I had 26 minus 13.
Okay, you got 2 13s at least. Kyle?
Oh, I didn't.
What did you get?
From boiling, got 12 minus 21i plus 8i minus
Okay, dude.
14.
Yeah, we have a symbol by it.
I don't have it simplified yet.
Hadley?
I got 26 minus 13.
Okay, so we got another vote for this one.
Yeah, 26 minus 13.
All right, well, let's boil it out and see what happens. We got a lot of votes for this guy right here, but I don't know, well, let's see. So we have 12
Yeah.
minus 21i plus 8i minus 14i squared.
Yeah, but it was
It's
plus
11.
14. Yeah, plus 4.
So this is the negative 13i, I agree with
Yes.
that.
And then you would add the 14.
And this becomes plus 14
You get
because I
26.
squared is
Negative.
negative. So 12 and 14 makes 26, so I think that's right. Reed, did you find your mistake?
Yeah,
You did?
I just did. I subtracted -1 from 12, but you just need to add 14.
Oh, yeah, you gotta have the 14 in there. Okay, I see what you did, yeah. Yeah, that 14 stays part of the problem.
Can you go over the eyes real quick?
No, but it's all on video that you can watch, okay? Okay, yeah. Being in school on time is important, Nani. 5 plus 7i over 3 minus 2i. All right, here we go. This is a good review problem. Nani, and there are lots of I stuff with this one. All right, so let's help him out because he wasn't here. What's our strategy when we are dividing by I numbers? What do we have to do? Ben?
Take the opposite of the denominator.
So when you say opposite, what do
I
you
like
mean?
the opposite sign.
The middle sign.
Yeah.
So it's 3 plus 2i.
Yeah.
We call that the conjugate. So we're going to multiply the top and the bottom by 3 plus 2i. Okay? Now we're going to just FOIL everything. So here we go. Zeke, pencil or paper, ready?
I did it.
You're already done? What do you have as the answer?
Yeah, what do you?
Let's write your answer down and we'll see if anybody else gets it.
1 plus 31i over 14.
One, did you say 31i?
Yeah.
That's easy, but this
All right.
Oh, wait. No.
Well, go ahead, you can work on that. Anybody else already have it done? See, I'm so sorry, Zeke. I thought you were sitting there vegging and you're way ahead of everybody.
Maybe 13 on the bottom.
What?
Maybe 13 on the bottom.
Okay, so you have the same numerator? No, haven't done it yet. Okay, so we gotta guess that there's a 13 on the bottom
Yeah.
instead of 14.
Yeah, got it. Yeah, because look, see, because the eyes cancel out. And then you have to do,
Okay, everybody's spoiling. Are you done?
Yeah, I think I pulled it right. On top I had 10 plus 10i plus 21i, which obviously I know you
Mm-hmm.
factored the 10i, 21i, make 31i, plus 14i squared. And on the bottom I had 6 plus 6i minus 6i minus 4i squared.
Okay, well, go ahead and simplify and tell me what your answer is. Because we want the final answer here, so do you have something on top of your
The top is
tongue?
right.
I got
And,
15 plus 7.
Okay, so wait a
71
second,
plus
I'll get you in a
31.
second. Okay, so Brendan, you think this is the
Oh,
answer?
no, I don't.
Yeah, that is the answer.
Okay.
Because the 6 I's, they cancel out, and then you have to add the 4 to the
Well,
9.
time out, let's let everybody catch up. Yeah. Yeah, okay, all right, we'll see ya. Bye. Okay,
I also got
okay, so we got the second one,
Yeah, I got the second.
everybody get the Hadley? Second one, all right, let's work it out.
What?
15 plus 10i plus 21i plus 14i squared. And 9 plus 6i minus 6i minus 4i squared. Now, I think it's pretty obvious that the 31i is correct. This makes a negative 14, doesn't it? So 15 minus 14 is indeed 1. So everybody that spoke anyhow has the right numerator. On the bottom, these are gone. This becomes a plus 4, and 9 plus 4 is 13. That's okay.
I don't know what 9 plus 4 is.
It's all right. It's really not, but it is what it is, so, yeah. All right, any question about that?
Stick to wrestling.
Well, guess what, folks? P6 is also due on Monday. Yep. But again, that should be so easy for you to do. If you have any free time today, you can probably get that one cranked out. That's easy. Okay, and now we're gonna move on to the last section of the chapter. So my guess is we'll take notes maybe one more day, and then we'll start reviewing for our test. So our test probably won't be next week, but it'll be the beginning of the following week, probably. Okay, gotta get through these notes first. Then we review for a few days. All right, so here we go. We're gonna solve this inequality. Now I'm gonna show you a little bit different way, maybe when you've solved these before. We kind of talked about this earlier. I'm going to approach this problem as a distance. When you look at this problem, you see those absolute values there. I want you to think about, this is the distance between x and 2. On your number line, guys, if I put a 4 and a 7, and I say, what's the distance? Wouldn't you say the distance is 3? And you would get that by doing 7 minus 4. But if you did 4 minus 7, you would get the same thing as long as you put it in absolute value. This is distance, to find the distance between two numbers. So what this problem says to me is the distance between something and 2. So here's 2. The distance between something and 2 is more than 3. So where could that something be? Doesn't that something have to be out here?
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's see. If I count out 3 this way, this would be a 5, and 3 this way would be a negative 1.
Yeah, so it would be 5.
So these, now wait, aren't these two numbers exactly 3 units away from 2?
Yes.
If I want to be more than 3 units away, then don't I have to be past those 2?
Yeah.
Don't I have to be farther out? So my answer is everything less than negative 1, or or everything greater than 5. Everything here, you can't see my shading very well. Everything less than -1 or greater than 5. If we wrote this as an interval, which is good practice for our quiz tomorrow, if we wrote this as an interval, remember this is negative infinity, this is positive infinity. What would this look like right here? What would this look like in an interval? Perfect, that's exactly right. Negative infinity to -1. Or, and that's the symbol we use for or, U, union, the U. What would this one look like? 5 to infinity? That's interesting. That's a different way maybe of doing that problem, but it's the calculus way. Now I want you to notice something though. For those of you who just, oh my gosh, Miss Ford, I don't understand what you're talking about. Here's what you do. The opposite of this number right here. This says x minus 2. So the opposite's +2. Put it right in the middle of your number line. Then count this many both directions. Okay? If you want more than that number, you have to shade out here. If you want less than that number, you shade in between. Okay, it's that easy. So when I look at the next one, x plus 5 less than or equal to 6, even if I don't understand a word Mrs. Ford said, I'm going to draw a number line, and what number is going to go right in the middle of that number line? Not 5, not 6, -5. Because what goes in the middle of the number line? The opposite of what's in the middle of the problem. That number's in the middle of the problem. Take the opposite of it. So it's going to be -5. Count this many. So if I count 6 out here, I would be at 1, closed dot. If I count 6 this way, I would be at -11, closed dot. This is less than 6, which means I won't shade out, I will shade in. So my answer in an interval would be that. In a set form, it would be this. Notice, is this number right here part of the answer? You see that number down here in the answer anywhere?
No.
No, there's no dot there. That's not part of the answer. We don't, I mean, we don't, it's, over there it's part of the answer, but we don't include it in the answer. We don't include that number when we write down -11 and 1. Those are the answers.
So absolute value and inequality means the number's opposite, and in an equation you just make it positive, right?
No, it's the same thing in an equation. If you factored and you had x plus 3, x minus 2, what do the answers end up being? -3 and 2. It's always the opposite. Always the opposite. Okay? So it's the same idea here. That's x plus 5, so we start at -5. All right, let's look at the next one. What's different about this one? There's a 2 in front. Now, guys, that 2 in front can't be there. It's just like when we complete the square, it can't be there. So what do you think we might do to get rid of it, Brendan?
I mean, you just write it down, like get out of the absolute value and write it down, and then divide by 2.
You actually can divide by 2 with it still in
Or
absolute value.
what I was thinking is, couldn't you just like subtract the 8 over? And then if you do that, well, because it comes down as +8, and if you subtract the 8 over, you'll get x less than or equal to negative half.
So what you're thinking is okay. There are other ways to solve this problem. When you did this last year, you may have split it up into two problems. And then you had to remember whether it was an and or an or in between them and all that stuff. We're doing this as a calculus student would do it, which I think is much easier. I gotta get rid of that 2, so I divide everything by 2. Okay, so I'm gonna draw a number line. I'm not gonna do 2 separate problems. I'm gonna draw one number line. What am I gonna put in the middle of the number line? 4. And then I'm gonna count. And how much am I gonna count?
7. Oh, 7.
3.5, right? Remember, we had to divide everything by 2. So I'm going to count 3.5. So if I count 3.5 ahead of 4, past 4, I would be at 7.5, close dot. If I go back 3.5, I'll be at a half, close dot. And then the only decision I have to make is, am I coloring in between them, or am I coloring outside of them? This is a, oh, I think it's a greater than, isn't it? That's a greater than. So where do greater thans get shaded? Out. So that's going to be out. So x is less than or equal to 0.5, or x is greater than or equal to 7.5. Now, we're going to write that as an interval to make sure everybody can. Because tomorrow you have to be able to write your answer. There's no question like this tomorrow, but you're going to get an answer to something and you have to be able to write it as an interval. All right, so take a look at this. What would this end look like? Negative infinity. How about that? Would everybody agree that's what we got going on here?
Yeah.
All right, what about here? The U in between them.
Infinity, no, 7.5.
Yep, very good. So we will write, it doesn't matter what you write if there's no directions, but if it says answer as an interval, this will be your answer. All right, you sleepy weepies, we got one more to go here in this section. Let's get it done. Here we go. What's wrong with this one? Does this bother anybody? Is there anything wrong with that problem? Well, there's a couple things wrong with it. Does this look backwards to you? It looks backwards to me, right? I want to remind you that in real math, 3 minus 4x is not the same as 4x minus 3, right? Those are different, right? But if we put it inside the absolute value, think about this for a minute. Is 3 minus 7 the same as 7 minus 3?
Yes.
If it's in absolute value.
Yes.
So if that looks backwards to you, turn it around. Perfectly okay to turn it around because it's inside absolute value. Now it's not backwards. But now what? We got a 4 to contend with. So x minus 3 fourths less than 9 fourths. Now tell me what to do. Here in the middle, I'm going to put a number. What number is going to go in the middle?
3/4.
3/4. Listen to me. The number that goes in the middle is the number that's in the middle of the problem. Opposite of it. So positive 3/4 goes in the middle. Then this one tells me how far to count. So I'm going to count 9/4 both ways. So if I'm at 3/4 and I add 9/4, it would be 12/4, which is 3.
Yes, ma'am.
And if I'm at 3/4 and I subtract 9/4,
-6/4.
-6/4 or -3/2.
Yes, ma'am.
So my number line's kind of a mess there. I have dots at -3/2 and 3. And the only thing left to decide is, where do I shade it? Less than means it's going to be shaded in. So I'm shading in. Parentheses, -3/2, comma 3.
Yeah.
The dots are open because this was not in or equal to. Right? All right. You guys have done a great job today. We're going to pause there. Pick up there tomorrow after we take our quiz.